Hey, a bit Steve from that old Yorkshire geek. We've got some Stargate news. And Robocop, Legally Blonde and Barbershop. We don't care about those. Well, Robocop maybe. But Stargate. Anyway, this is from Deadline and Gate World. As usual, links are in the description down below. Don't forget, like and subscribe, share the videos, drop a comment, hit the notification bell. If you're subscribed already. And I'm also on Rumble and Spotify and Amazon Music Podcasts and Google Podcasts. And you can also find me on the social medias of Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Links for all those are in the description as well, as are the links to my two books, Silent Predator, a short horror novella about big cats and stuff, Mercury Rapids, a light-hearted sci-fi action adventure, bit thicker, to match the author. They're both on Amazon, Kindle and paperback. It's all just a bit of fun. Don't take it seriously. Right, so let's get to this story, shall we? Right, where are we? There we go. There we go, from Deadline. Robocop, Stargate, Legally Blonde and Barbershop among titles in works for film and TV as Amazon looks to supercharge MGM IP. And there's an image to look at. Right, exclusive. Well, it's not anymore. Maybe it was at the time. MGM's extensive film and TV catalogue, built over the past century, was the main driver behind Amazon's $8.5 billion acquisition of the storied Hollywood studio, which I thought were like really cheap. I mean, MGM, it's like one of the studios, isn't it? You know, going back in time. You had your big studios, you had your 20th Century Fox and you had your Paramount and Universal, and MGM were up there. MGM and 20th Century Fox essentially did all the big historical epics, didn't they? MGM were classy stuff. Even when they did science fiction, they made it were classy, well made, well crafted stuff, like Forbidden Planet, for instance. And for it to be sold for $8.5 billion, it seemed cheap, did that? Anyway, for the past year, since the deal closed in March 2022, Amazon Studios has been sifting through MGM's library, identifying about a dozen initial titles for film and or TV development, including Robocop, just leave that be, Stargate, Legally Blonde, Fame, Barbershop, The Magnificent Seven, excuse me, Pink Panther, leave that be. I mean, when they redid the Steve Martin Pink... Anyway, the Thomas Crown affair. We hear A-list creative auspices have reached out to inquire about adapting MGM IP, which they are fans of. Additionally, Amazon Studios also has been leaning on its own roster of talent for some projects. Now, I'm wondering, does Jay at Sci-Trek have the same sources as Deadline, or have Deadline just been watching Sci-Trek? I'll put a link in the description for Jay at Sci-Trek. So if that's, if they've got the same sources, cool. If Deadline have just been watching Sci-Trek and Jay's scoops, then that's also cool. For Jay, and they just, recently they went past 20,000 subscribers. Yay! Send some over to my channel, for God's sake. Anyway, each title is being approached differently. Some are being steered toward film, some toward TV, and some big ones are getting both movie and TV treatment. By the way, Jay's been saying this for months. He has. There's had lots of videos on his channel about this, including Robocop. He's been saying this for months. For instance, Amazon Studios is in active early conversation on Legally Blonde, both for a movie and a potential TV series, sources said. There already had been on and off efforts to get a third Legally Blonde film off the ground for the past 5 years. I've never seen it. Never seen the first one. I've heard it's good. Never seen it. Not my, it's not the bag I'm into, so to speak. Amazon has similar plans for Stargate. Yay! We hear both film and TV installments are considered, with a movie likely going first. Robocop also is being talked about for both film and TV, with a TV show possibly first at Deadline hears. It's weird, isn't it? Never mind. Doing Stargate movie first, but a Robocop series first. Strange. Additionally, excuse me, Amazon Studios is actively developing TV series based on Fame, I Want to Live Forever, sound just like the late great Irene Cara, Barbershop and The Magnificent Seven, sources said. There are also discussions about a Thomas Crown Affair movie, yes, you can see that, as well as a Pink Panther movie, which could be animated, sources said. Just leave the Pink Panther alone. Peter Sellers, he was Clouseau, nobody else can do it, Steve Martin couldn't do it, leave it be. And animated, well, we had the cartoons, didn't we, in the 60s and 70s. I used to love watching those. I wasn't keen, to be honest, in the Pink Panther cartoons. When I was a kid, I liked watching the ones with the Pink Panther in, and I loved this cool car that he had in real life that kid drove in. But I wasn't really bothered about the Clouseau cartoon segments of the shows. But I was a kid. Anyway, but I love the films. The films are hilarious. A Poltergeist project also is a possibility down the road, we hear. Cool. They did remake Poltergeist, didn't they, with, I forgot his name. Sam, what's his face? In that did Moon and were in the MCU. What's his name now? With him anyway, and it wasn't that good, really, was it? It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't that good. Deadline already revealed plans for a Creed universe spanning film and TV, which Amazon Studios has been discussing with franchise star and filmmaker Michael B. Jordan. Don't even mention... Oh, there we go. The studio also just made a first-look deal with Sylvester Stallone and his Balboa Productions. For film and TV projects, we hear expanding the Rocky brand into television may be part of it. Oh, right, so there we go. I was going to say, I didn't even mention Rocky. That's obviously what Creed's a spin-off from, isn't it? There are currently no plans for other James Bond series beyond the unscripted competition series announced shortly after Amazon's acquisition of MGM closed, as the franchise producers are focused on figuring out the next film instalment. I've told you, MGM, Eon Productions, Barbara Broccoli, and your stepbrother, Michael Wilson. I've told you, start it off with... whoever the new James Bond is, a knock on James Bond's apartment door or flat or whatever, where he lives in London, that we saw in the early James Bond films and Live and Let Die. Knock on that door, the door opens, we see the new James Bond, and he goes, in a kind of a Roger Moore sort of way. You can see he's probably naked from the waist up, with his hairy chest and stuff. And he goes, and then we turn and we see that M is Judi Dench. And he says, I had the most peculiar dream. And then we just carry on, and it's just Bond is back as normal, mid-career. Maybe a Bond that looks a little bit like Pierce Brosnan. But anyway, so there we go. Aaron Taylor Johnson. That'd be my pick. Everybody wants Henry Cavill. Aaron Taylor Johnson for me. But Henry Cavill would do. Anyway, where were we? Identifying and developing MGM IP has been slow going so far. Some of that has been by design, as the new owners want to be thoughtful about the process, given the great legacy of the titles involved. That's the thing with MGM, that's legacy. It's a legacy studio. That's why I'm surprised it went for so little money. Some of it has been by necessity, given the complexity of some of the underlying rights. Rocky is just one example that have been taking months to untangle. Because Sylvester Stallone, to get his Rocky films made, or his first film made, he basically had to give up a lot of his rights, and he's been trying to get them back, hasn't he? Unsuccessfully for the most part. The nearly 100-year-old studio has had multiple owners as well as financing partners for many of its best-known movies. But that's the same with all studios, isn't it? In the 60s and 70s, a lot of them got bought out by insurance firms and other corporations that had nothing to do with movies. This is also a studio that reportedly kept much of its archive hundreds of feet underground in an actual salt mine in Kansas that housed deleted scenes of movies such as 2001: A Space Odyssey and unmade scripts from the likes of Woody Allen, Samuel Beckett, and even Stanley Kubrick's infamous Napoleon script. The job of sorting through the complexity of rights who owns what and who else was originally involved falls to Cynthia Waldman, who has spent more than 20 years combined at the company and is now head of library rights in her 4th stint at MGM. One source told Deadline that it is Waldman's job to act as an entertainment archaeologist, helping producers figure out the intricacies of rights to projects that they are interested in adapting. I'll learn to read one of these days properly. Thank God I'm not a newsreader on BBC News. But hey up! Welcome to BBC News. I can't read that auto cue, it's a bit too small. My glasses are crap. That's what I'd be like. Saying a lot. Anyway, the RoboCop sci-fi action franchise centres around the futuristic adventures of Alex Murphy, a Detroit, Michigan police officer who is fatally wounded in the line of duty and transformed into a powerful cyborg, brand named RoboCop. The first film, starring Peter Weller, premiered in 1987. It was followed by 2 sequels, RoboCop 2 in 1990, which is really... I love RoboCop 2. RoboCop 3 in 1993, which isn't that good. And 2014's RoboCop, a remake of the 1987 film, which wasn't that good, you know. I mean, they tried something a little bit different, but, you know, it was an unnecessary remake. The Legally Blonde movie franchise is based on the novel Legally Blonde by Amanda Brown. The first film debuted in 2001, starring Reese Witherspoon as Harvard law student Elle Woods. It was followed by a sequel, Legally Blonde 2, Red, White and Blonde, in 2003 and 2009 direct-to-video spin-off Legally Blondes, like aliens, which originated as a pilot for a potential series. Legally Blonde 3, co-written by Mindy Kaling and Dan Guer, has been in the works for several years. Here we go, the important stuff. The Stargate military sci-fi franchise, spanning film and TV, launched in 1994 with a movie directed by Roland Emmerich. It was followed by 2 more films, Stargate The Ark of Truth in 2008 and Stargate Continuum also in 2008. They're films, they were directed DVD movies, continuations of Stargate SG-1. In TV, Stargate SG-1 was one of the longest-running science fiction series in US television history, 10 seasons. It was followed by Stargate Atlantis in 2004, we've got 5 seasons of that, and Stargate Universe in 2009, 2 seasons of that. Animated series Stargate Infinity in 2002, thankfully only 1 season of that, it were awful. And web series Stargate Origins in 2018, which was really low budget. It looked a bit plasticky in some of the sets. But, you know, it wasn't terrible, and they tried. They did the best with what they had. The Ice Cube, it was an experiment by MGM, because at the same time they set up the Stargate Command, like a streaming service, where you could watch all the different Stargate stuff, and you paid like a 20 I think it was £20, $20, whatever, one-off fee, and that were it. You will remember then. I remember it was £20 a year. I can't remember, but I think it only lasted a year and then they shut it down. There mustn't have been enough interest, unfortunately. Anyway, the Ice Cube starring Barbershop franchise started with the 2002 movie. Never seen it. Directed by Tim Story. Oh, did the Fantastic Four films, didn't he? The first 2. It was followed by Barbershop 2, Back in Business in 2004, and Barbershop The Next Cut in 2016, a spin-off beauty shop starring Queen Latifah, was released in 2005, along with the Barbershop TV series. I'm not seeing any of them. Fame, the 1980 musical film directed by Alan Parker, has spawned multiple TV series, scripted and unscripted, as well as a 2009 movie remake and a stage musical. You know what, I don't think I've ever seen Fame, the film. Everybody knows the songs and stuff and all that, and I used to watch the series when I were younger. I think when I was at school, it were on TV, and I used to like that. I don't think I ever saw the film. Not that I can remember. Anyway, whatever. I will have to rectify that, because I like musicals. I like musicals. Grease is one of my favourite films. I'm going to have to look for that Grease series, aren't I? The Rise of the Pink Ladies, whatever it's called. Anyway, the 1960 United Artists Western, The Magnificent Seven, a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, has led to 3 sequels, a remake and a TV series, and Battle Beyond the Stars. The 1963 feature comedy, The Pink Panther, which introduced Inspector Jacques Clouseau, has been rebooted. The 1982 supernatural horror film Poltergeist has gotten sequels and remakes, well, a remake. And the 1968 The Thomas Crown Affair has had a remake. I think the original was it Steve McQueen? I've never seen it. And the remake was Pierce Brosnan, speaking of James Bond. So there we go. Oh, and that's it. So there we go. So hopefully, well, that's it. This is all stuff that Dan? Who's Dan? Jay, where did I get Dan from? That Jay at Sci-Trek has been saying for months. But it's not over. Because we've got to go to Gate World now for a more in-depth analysis, as you might expect from Gate World. Oh, excuse me. Stargate's return might begin with a feature film. Let me have a drink before we continue. Oh dear. Right, Amazon is developing a new Stargate project, though the form that will take has reportedly not yet been finalised. And there's the Atlantis Stargate. Cool. I've been watching Stargate Atlantis recently, and it's amazing. Love it. Anyway, the Stargate TV and film franchise is back in the trade headlines today with a new report from Deadline, as we've just seen, on Amazon's deliberations over what to do with its newly acquired MGM franchises. The report states that Amazon is considering both film and television projects for Stargate, with the movie likely going first. I don't understand that. I find that baffling, to be honest. Anyway, the report states that Amazon is considering both film and television projects for Stargate. I've just read that. Deadline sources tell it that A-list creative auspices. Pardon me. I can say it, and it's relevant. I'm burping because I've just polished off a lovely brunch. Jack O'Neill says that to Bal in Stargate SG-1. Anyway, where were we? Deadline sources tell it that the A-list creative auspices have reached out to inquire about adapting MGM IP, which they are fans of. Get it right. Of which they are fans. While Amazon has also been relying on its own creative partners for some projects. And as I said, this is what Jay at Sci-Trek's been saying, and he's even mentioned the producers and writers of The Expanse, saying they are the ones, they are the fans of Stargate that have reached out. So we will see if that's what ended up happening. An established science fiction franchise like Stargate seems ripe for the big budget theatrical blockbuster treatment. I don't think so myself. According to insiders, Amazon is looking to spend more than $1 billion per year on movies. It's not a lot really these days. I mean, you can get like 4 or 5 MCU movies for that, with around 12 to 15 films bound for cinemas. So that's at like, less than $100 million a movie, isn't it? Anyway, RoboCop is in much the same boat. Meanwhile, though, here the studio may be inclined to start with television. Again, baffling. The franchise was last rebooted with a 2014 film starring Joel Kinnaman, which was a modest hit with audiences. By the way, I can see Joel Kinnaman being in Stargate. He's got that look. I can see him in an SG-1 uniform, or SGC uniform. I can. Legally Blonde is also a priority, with a feature script co-written by Mandy Kaling, blah, 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 blah. We've read that before. And all this other stuff. Right. And there's the Stargate at Stargate Command, the original one. Something new, but as far as Stargate goes, take the recent internet headlines with a grain of salt. This does not mean that a new Stargate series has been announced, or confirmed. Not yet anyway. It only means that Amazon is working on some things and trying to decide what to do with the brand and with whom to do it. Get your grammar right, people. One thing that does seem confirmed at this point is that Amazon is not interested in producing Brad Wright's pilot script for a new show. Boo! # Brad Wright Stargate or whatever. Bradgate. I don't know. The fourth set in the universe he established in co-creating Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, and Stargate Universe. That chapter of the franchise evidently closed in 2011 when Stargate Universe went off the air. The series was cancelled unceremoniously by Sci-Fi Channel after 2 seasons. MGM's most recent effort, 2018's low-budget web series Stargate Origins, which you can buy, it was like in 10-minute chunks, but they're like stuck them all together. You can now buy it as a full movie called Stargate Origins Catherine. Came from New because it's about Catherine, what's her face? The young girl that you see at the beginning of the original Stargate movie, all grown up. Came from new creatives who took their cues chiefly from the original feature film, although they did do nods to Stargate SG-1. They mentioned Jafar and stuff like that, and the Goa'uld, which were an SG-1 creation. I'm sure MGM and Amazon will do something with the franchise, Wright said in a Reddit AMA in December. I am less sure if I will have anything to do with it. A few years ago now, MGM reached out to me and asked me to develop a pilot script for a new series, but so much has changed since then, including all of the players. Amazon is probably deciding what to do with Stargate as a tentpole franchise, and that may take some time. I wish them well. It's got to say that, hasn't it, just in case. Don't want to burn his bridges, does it? Passing on Wright's pilot doesn't mean that Amazon will end up opting for a total reboot, however. We hear that part of its current deliberations concerns whether to reboot Stargate from scratch or create something that maintains continuity with what has come before, which viewers are still streaming from Prime Video in droves every day. Which is where I've been watching Stargate Atlantis, while also giving newcomers an easy on-ramp. Although I've got the DVDs, but, you know, streaming's easier, isn't it? Right, today's report at Deadline reinforces much of what we already know about the status of Stargate. Amazon is looking to put a new project into active development and has been taking meetings with potential producers, but hasn't settled on its final decision yet. What is new in this report is the suggestion that the studio may be inclined to begin on the big screen and then follow up with a TV series later. I don't understand that. Just do a series. Or a streaming movie. Don't know why you've got to go to cinemas, but never mind. The retail and studio giant purchased MGM for $8.45 billion in 2022. I mean, they spent $1 billion on bloody Rings of Power, didn't they, a streaming series? Why didn't they just make another Lord of the Rings film? Because they didn't have rights for it. That's why. They had to do TV. In 2022, in part for its existing film and television library, but also to make new content with MGM's IP, intellectual property, like Stargate, Rocky and Creed, James Bond, Robocop, Vikings, Legally Blonde, and more. Never been able to get into Vikings. Everybody say, oh, it's great, it's like Game of Thrones. Didn't like it. Tried, couldn't get into it. So yes, of course, Amazon is currently trying to decide on its long-term game plan for the Stargate franchise. It's safe to say that the studio would like to build a universe that can support multiple TV series, films, licensed tie-ins, such as books, comics and video games, and more. That, it seems, will require a strategy that does not alienate Stargate's current global fan base, which is still millions strong. And it is. You go to a Stargate convention, it's packed. I went to one a few years ago. And it was cool and amazing, and it was packed. It was really busy. The studio is taking its time. The MGM deal closed more than a year ago now to get the details right and to find creatives that they want to entrust with shepherding the franchise. Here we go. Amazon MGM took pictures from writers late last year. Took pictures, not pictures. Which reportedly included the likes of The Expanse TV creators Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby. Love that, don't it? It needs a series just about him, or with the character called Hawk Ostby. And the name of the series would just be Hawk, wouldn't it? Some sort of spy or something like that. Anyway, there is no solid word today on whether that pair is still in the mix. We hope to have something more solid to report in 2023 as Amazon finally decides where to invest its time and money in reviving Stargate for global audiences. Stick with Gateworld for the latest and Sci Trek, because Jay seems to have his finger on the pulse with that. Right, so there you go. So Stargate, along with other things, Robocop, etc., may be on its way back. Yay! But don't hold your breath. And we don't know in what form it's going to be. Is it going to be a total new reboot? I hope not. Or is it going to be a continuation of what's come before, SG-1 Atlantis universe? I hope so. A lot of fans are hoping for that. We want to know what happened to the crew of the Destiny. We want to know what happened to the Atlantis base. Is it still in San Francisco Bay? Did it go back to the Pegasus Galaxy to help defeat the Wraith? Because they've got to defeat the Wraith, haven't they? The bad guys in Stargate Atlantis. And all that stuff. But anyway... Right, we'll leave it there. So, thanks for watching. Wherever you are, look after each other. And until next time, I'll see thee.